As I walk through my garden, I often think about the connection we have to the earth, a connection that stretches back centuries. Yet, in our modern plots, we've somehow lost touch with a whole world of vegetables that were once the backbone of the kitchen garden. We've become accustomed to a rather narrow range of crops, often chosen for their uniformity and shelf life, rather than their resilience or depth of flavor. Our gardens, while beautiful, are missing out on some truly remarkable, nutrient-dense vegetables that our ancestors relied upon for their very survival. These are crops that have a story to tell, a history woven into their very DNA. Centuries ago, medieval farmers and gardeners cultivated an incredible diversity of plants. They didn't have the luxury of heated greenhouses or fast-acting fertilizers. They needed crops that could withstand unpredictable weather, poor soil, and the constant threat of pests and disease. They grew vegetables that were tough, dependable, and packed with flavor, qualities that are just as valuable today as they were then. Sadly, many of these stalwart crops have faded into obscurity, replaced by their more commercially viable cousins. They are the forgotten heroes of the vegetable patch, waiting quietly in the wings of history. But I believe these vegetables deserve a triumphant comeback. Their inherent hardiness, their complex and often surprising flavors, and their wonderfully low-maintenance nature make them perfect for the modern, thoughtful gardener. They offer a path to a more sustainable, resilient, and, dare I say, more interesting garden. So come with me. Let's dig into the past and unearth some of these forgotten treasures. I think you'll discover, as I have, why every gardener should make a little space to grow a piece of history. The first plant on our journey is one that might sound familiar, but with a twist: root parsley. Now, we all know and love the leafy garnish, but for centuries it was the root that was truly prized. Imagine a parsnip, but with a more refined, herbaceous flavor, a delightful blend of celery, carrot, and that classic parsley freshness. It's a wonderfully creamy and earthy vegetable when cooked, lending a subtle complexity to soups, stews, and roasts. In the medieval kitchen, this was a staple, providing sustenance and a comforting flavor through the long, cold winter months. It was a foundational taste, now almost entirely lost to us. What makes root parsley, or Hamburg parsley as it's sometimes known, so special for the modern gardener is its sheer unfussiness. It asks for very little. You sow it directly into the ground in spring, much as you would carrots or parsnips, and it quietly gets on with the business of growing. It's not particularly demanding about soil type, though it does appreciate a deep, loose bed to allow its taproot to swell. It's also wonderfully cold hardy, meaning you can leave the roots in the ground and harvest them as needed right through the winter, their flavor often sweetened by a touch of frost. Think of the satisfaction of pulling one of these pale, tapered roots from the cold, damp earth in the dead of winter. You're not just harvesting a vegetable, you're connecting with a long line of gardeners who did the very same thing to feed their families. It can be roasted until caramelized, mashed with butter and cream for a comforting side, or grated raw into a winter slaw for a surprising, zesty crunch. It's a dual-purpose plant, really, as you can still snip the leaves for your cooking while you wait for the root to mature. It's a simple, honest, and incredibly rewarding crop to grow. Our next contender is a vegetable that truly looks like it's from another time. It's called scorzonera, or sometimes the black oyster plant. At first glance, it's not much to look at, a long, thin, almost black root that resembles a dusty old stick. But as is so often the case in the garden, you absolutely cannot judge a book or a vegetable by its cover. Beneath that unassuming dark skin lies a tender ivory-white flesh with a flavor that is quite extraordinary. It's nutty, slightly sweet, and has a delicate taste reminiscent of oysters or mild artichoke hearts, which explains its curious nickname. This was a highly prized vegetable in medieval and Renaissance Europe, not just for its unique flavor, but for its supposed medicinal properties. Its resilience is what truly makes it a gardener's friend, however. Scorzonera is incredibly tough. It can withstand harsh winters, shrugging off frosts that would decimate more delicate crops. It's not particularly fussy about soil, though like root parsley, it does best in a deep, stone-free bed. This hardiness meant that medieval gardeners could rely on it as a source of food when other crops failed, a vital insurance policy in uncertain times. Growing it is a lesson in patience. You sow the seeds in spring, and it takes the entire season for the roots to develop fully. The harvest is a late autumn or winter affair. The trickiest part is peeling its thin, black skin, which can stain your hands, so it's wise to wear gloves or peel them under running water. But the reward is well worth the effort. Simply boiled or steamed and served with a little butter, it is a true delicacy. It can also be fried in batter like tempura or added to gratins. It's a vegetable that brings a touch of gourmet elegance from the past into the present-day garden. Now for a vegetable that really embodies the spirit of low-maintenance, sustainable gardening. Good King Henry. This isn't a root, but a leafy green, and its great virtue is that it's a hardy perennial. Once you establish a patch in your garden, it will come back year after year, providing you with nutritious greens for decades with minimal effort. It's one of the earliest green shoots to appear in the spring, a welcome sight after a long winter, offering a harvest long before many other vegetables have even been sown. It truly is the gift that keeps on giving. The flavor is often compared to spinach, but I find it has a richer, more complex taste, with nutty, slightly irony notes, a bit like a cross between spinach and asparagus. The young shoots can be cut in spring and cooked like asparagus spears, while the tender leaves can be picked throughout the season and used just as you would use spinach or chard, steamed, wilted, or added to pies and tarts. Even the flower buds are edible, resembling a sort of miniature broccoli. It was a staple in cottage gardens for centuries, known affectionately as poor man's asparagus. To grow Good King Henry is to embrace a different kind of gardening. It's not about the annual cycle of sowing and clearing, but about creating a permanent, productive feature in your garden. Find a spot for it in a corner of your vegetable patch, or even in a herbaceous border, as its deep green, arrow-shaped leaves are quite handsome. It prefers a reasonably fertile, well-drained soil and a bit of sun. Once it's settled in, you simply need to mulch it once a year and enjoy the harvest. It's a living piece of history that asks for so little and provides so much in return. Here we have a plant that is not only a forgotten food source, but also a brilliant garden helper, the groundnut, or hopness. This is a perennial climbing vine, native to North America, but cultivated in Europe since the 16th century, that produces strings of edible tubers along its roots, a bit like beads on a necklace. These tubers were a vital food source for indigenous peoples and early colonists, and for good reason. They are remarkably high in protein, significantly more so than potatoes, and have a pleasant, nutty flavor when cooked, somewhere between a potato and a roasted chestnut. What makes the groundnut particularly fascinating for the gardener is its ability to fix nitrogen. Like peas and beans, it has nodules on its roots that take nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form that plants can use. This means it actively improves the fertility of the soil wherever it grows, making it a fantastic companion plant. You can grow it up a trellis or a fence, and it will produce attractive, fragrant, purplish-brown flowers in late summer. It's a plant that works hard for you, both above and below the ground. It's best planted in a spot where it can be left to establish itself, as it takes a couple of years to start producing a really good crop of tubers. It thrives in partial shade and moist soil, conditions that can sometimes be tricky to fill in a garden. The tubers can be harvested in the autumn once the vine has died back. You can dig them up, roast them, boil them, or add them to stews for a protein-rich boost. Growing hopness is a way to cultivate not just food, but fertility, building a healthier, more self-sustaining garden ecosystem from the ground up. Long before Swiss chard with its vibrant, rainbow stems became a farmer's market favorite, its ancestor, leaf beet, was a cornerstone of the kitchen garden. This is, in essence, chard in its more primal, robust form. It tends to grow more upright and is generally hardier than its modern descendants. While it may not always have the dazzling stem colors, its deep green, crinkly leaves are packed with an earthy, rich flavor and an incredible density of nutrients, particularly vitamins and minerals. It's a true superfood that has been feeding people for millennia. The great advantage of leaf beet is its resilience, especially its resistance to cold. It can be sown from spring right through to late summer, providing a continuous harvest. In milder climates, a late sowing will often stand right through the winter, offering fresh greens when little else is available. It's also less prone to bolting, running to seed, in the heat of summer than many modern spinach or chard varieties are. It's a reliable, steady performer, the sort of plant you can depend on throughout the gardening year. You can harvest it in two ways, either by picking individual outer leaves as you need them, which encourages the plant to keep producing from its center, or by cutting the whole plant. The leaves and the stems are both edible. The stems take a little longer to cook, so I often chop them and start them in the pan a few minutes before adding the leaves. It's wonderfully versatile. Delicious, simply wilted with a bit of butter, or used as a robust wrapper for fillings, or chopped into soups and stews. Growing leaf beet is like having a direct link to the chards and beets of the past, with all their vigor and goodness intact. Salsify is another one of those magical root vegetables that truly surprises you. It carries the same nickname as scorzonera, the oyster plant, and for the very same reason. When cooked, this long, tapering, pale-skinned root has a subtle, delicate flavor that is uncannily reminiscent of oysters, or some say, asparagus. It has a wonderful, slightly fibrous texture that becomes creamy and tender upon cooking. It was incredibly popular from the medieval period right up to the Victorian era, often featuring in elaborate dishes, but has since become a real rarity. One of the most appealing things about salsify for the gardener is its tolerance of less than perfect conditions. While it prefers a light sandy soil to produce perfectly straight roots, it will happily grow in poorer, heavier soils where other root crops might struggle. This adaptability made it a valuable crop for cottage gardeners and smallholders who had to make the most of the land they had. It's sown in spring and harvested in late autumn after the first frosts, which are said to improve its flavor, converting its starches to sugars. Like parsnips, salsify stores exceptionally well. The roots can be lifted and kept in boxes of damp sand in a cool shed for months, providing a delicious and unusual vegetable deep into the winter. When preparing it, you need to peel it and drop it into acidulated water with a squeeze of lemon juice, to stop the white flesh from discoloring. It's truly superb when boiled and served in a cream sauce, roasted until golden, or pureed into an elegant soup. Growing salsify is a chance to cultivate a lost flavor, a taste of forgotten refinement. If you want to add a touch of architectural drama to your vegetable garden, then you must grow cardoons. This is a plant that just commands attention. A close relative of the globe artichoke, it's a magnificent, towering thistle with these huge, arching, silvery gray leaves that can grow up to, well, 1.5 meters tall. In late summer, it sends up these spectacular purple thistle-like flowers that are a magnet for bees and other pollinators. It was grown by the ancient Greeks and Romans and actually remained a popular vegetable throughout the medieval period, valued for both its ornamental beauty and its edible stems. Unlike the artichoke, where we eat the flower bud, with the cardoon, it's the leaf stalks, or ribs, that are eaten. The flavor is a wonderful combination of artichoke heart and celery, with a pleasant, slightly bitter edge. To prepare them for harvest, the stalks traditionally need to be blanched to make them tender and to mellow their flavor. This is done by wrapping the base of the plant in sacking or cardboard for a few weeks before you intend to eat it, excluding the light. It's a bit of a ritual, a slow food process that connects you to the rhythms of the past. Cardoons are remarkably drought-tolerant once established, their deep taproots able to find moisture far down in the soil. They are perennials, so a single plant will provide a harvest for several years. They thrive in a sunny, well-drained spot and make a stunning statement at the back of a border or as a centerpiece in a potager garden. The blanched stems are fantastic when braised, fried, or baked in a gratin with cheese and breadcrumbs. It's a vegetable that really feeds both the body and the soul, bringing a touch of Mediterranean grandeur to the garden. Let's delve into the damp corners of the medieval garden to find our next subject, the skirret. This is a perennial root vegetable that has fallen so far out of fashion, it's almost completely unknown today, which is, honestly, a terrible shame. Skirret produces a cluster of slender, fleshy, whitish roots that look a bit like a bundle of thin carrots. What makes them so special is their taste. They are exceptionally sweet, much sweeter than carrots or parsnips, with a unique, slightly peppery flavor. Before the widespread cultivation of sugar beet and cane, skirret was one of the sweetest things you could pull from the ground. As its old name, water parsnip, suggests, skirret thrives in cool, moist, and even boggy soil. This makes it an incredibly useful plant for those difficult damp parts of the garden where many other vegetables would simply rot. Once you have it for good. Being a perennial, you can harvest some of the roots from the cluster in autumn or winter, leaving the rest of the plant in the ground to regrow for the following year. It's this kind of self-sufficiency that medieval gardeners would have really cherished. The roots can be a little fiddly due to their slender nature and a slightly woody core that is best removed after cooking, but the flavor is more than worth the trouble. They can be boiled, fried, or roasted. A favorite old recipe is to boil them, mash them with butter, and make them into fritters. They were a common sight in the markets of Tudor England, a winter treat that brought welcome sweetness to the table. By planting skirret, you're not just growing a vegetable, you're reviving a lost taste and making productive use of a challenging part of your garden. Now for a vegetable that hails from the wild, windswept coastlines of Europe, sea kale. This is a truly remarkable plant, a brassica that has adapted to thrive in the most challenging of conditions: salty air, sandy soil, and harsh winds. For centuries, people living by the sea have foraged for it, and it was eventually brought into cultivation in the 18th century, becoming a great delicacy. It's a plant of many parts. In early spring, the young, tender shoots are forced, much like rhubarb, to produce blanched, white stems that are cooked and eaten like asparagus. Later in the season, the beautiful, wavy, blue-gray leaves can be cooked like cabbage, and the small, broccoli-like flower heads are also edible, with a sweet, nutty flavor. Even the seed pods have a peppery kick and can be eaten raw in salads. It's a perennial that, once established, will reward you for years with its multiple harvests. Its tolerance of poor, salty, and alkaline soils makes it an invaluable plant for coastal gardeners or anyone with difficult, free-draining ground. It's a true survivor. To get the prized blanched shoots, you need to cover the crown of the plant in late winter with a large pot or a bucket to exclude all light. Within a few weeks, you'll be able to cut the pale, tender shoots at the base. They have a wonderful, delicate flavor, a subtle blend of asparagus and hazelnut with a hint of the sea. Unforced, the shoots are still edible, but have a stronger, more cabbage-like taste. The plant itself is incredibly handsome, with its glaucous leaves and clouds of honey-scented white flowers, making it worthy of a place in any ornamental border. While broad beans, or fava beans, as they're known in many parts of the world, might seem more familiar than some of the others on our list, their ancient lineage and incredible hardiness earn them a firm place. These beans have been cultivated for at least 8,000 years. They were a staple food for the ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Romans, and formed the protein backbone of the medieval diet, especially for the poor. They are one of the very first vegetables you can sow in the garden, often planted in late autumn or very early spring. Their ability to germinate and grow in cold soil is second to none. The real magic of the broad bean, beyond its delicious taste, is its role as a nitrogen fixer. Like the groundnut, it enriches the soil as it grows, leaving it more fertile for the crops that follow. This was a fundamental principle of medieval crop rotation, a way of maintaining the health of the land without artificial inputs. Planting a crop of broad beans is like, well, giving your garden a tonic. The plants themselves are sturdy and upright, producing beautiful, fragrant black and white flowers before the pods begin to swell. Harvesting young, tender pods and eating them whole is a delight, but honestly, the true prize is the beans inside. When they are young and green, they are sweet and tender. As they mature, They become more starchy and require their tough outer skin to be removed after boiling, a process called double potting, which reveals the bright green, buttery bean within. They are, of course, wonderful simply boiled, but also mashed into a puree with mint and olive oil or tossed into salads and stews. They are a taste of early summer, a nutritious, soil-improving crop that has sustained humanity for millennia. Long before celery became a regular in our kitchens, there was Alexander's. This plant was introduced to Britain by the Romans, and it quickly naturalized, becoming a common sight along coastlines and hedgerows. For centuries, it was the go-to plant for anyone wanting that celery-like flavor. Every part of the plant is edible and aromatic: the stems, the leaves, the flower buds, and even the black seeds, which can be used as a peppery spice. It's one of the very first green things to emerge at the end of winter, often showing new growth as early as January. Its flavor is somewhere between celery and parsley, but with a unique, slightly spicy and perfumed note that is all its own. It's a much stronger, more pungent flavor than modern celery, a taste that really speaks of its wild origins. The young stems can be peeled and steamed or braised, the leaves can be used in salads or to flavor stocks, and the unopened flower buds can be cooked and taste a little like broccoli. In medieval times, it was an essential pot herb, adding depth and flavor to countless dishes during the lean months of early spring. Alexander's is a biennial, meaning it completes its life cycle over 2 years, but it self-seeds so readily that once you have a patch, you'll likely have it forever. It thrives in the background, in partial shade, and in soil that other, more demanding vegetables might shun. It's a forager's delight that can be easily cultivated in a corner of the garden. By growing Alexander's, you can have a fresh, powerfully flavored green vegetable ready for harvest at a time of year when the garden is mostly sleeping, a true taste of Roman and medieval Britain. We began our journey with root parsley, and it's worth revisiting this fantastic vegetable under its other common name, Hamburg parsley, to really emphasize its brilliant dual-purpose nature. While some vegetables offer you a single harvest, this plant provides 2 distinct and delicious crops from the same space. Throughout the growing season, you can continually snip its lush, flavorful leaves. They have a more robust, earthy taste than standard flat-leaf parsley and are absolutely wonderful in soups, stews, and sauces, or simply chopped fresh as a garnish. Then, as autumn turns to winter, the main event is revealed beneath the soil. The plant has been diligently growing a substantial, pale, carrot-shaped taproot. This is the part that was so valued in medieval kitchens. As we've discussed, its flavor is a complex and comforting blend of parsnip, celery, and parsley. It has a wonderfully dense, starchy texture that holds up beautifully to slow cooking, becoming sweet and tender. It's a vegetable that truly earns its keep in the garden, working hard both above and below ground. This 2-for-1 offering makes Hamburg parsley an incredibly efficient crop, especially for those with smaller gardens where every plant needs to justify its space. It's sown in spring and is remarkably easy to grow, asking for little more than a reasonably deep, well-drained soil. You can begin harvesting the leaves as soon as the plant is established, and then wait for the first frosts to sweeten the roots before you start digging them up. It's a perfect example of the simple, practical wisdom of medieval gardening. A single plant providing both a fresh herb and a hardy root. Celeriac may be one of the ugliest vegetables you can grow, but it is undoubtedly one of the most delicious. This gnarled, knobbly, brownish-white orb that grows just at the soil surface is a true unsung hero of the winter garden. It is, in fact, a variety of celery that has been bred for its swollen root base rather than its stems. Beneath its rough exterior lies a crisp, dense, creamy white flesh that has all the flavor of celery, but intensified with nutty, earthy undertones. It's a robust and versatile vegetable that was a familiar sight in gardens and kitchens across Europe for centuries. Its ability to thrive in tough conditions is a testament to its rustic heritage. Celeriac is a long-season crop, sown in spring and harvested from autumn right through the winter. It's not fussy, but it does appreciate a rich, moisture-retentive soil to help it swell to a good size. It stands up to cold weather brilliantly, and like many winter roots, its flavor is often improved by a frost. The sheer satisfaction of wrenching one of these hefty globes from the cold ground is immense. It feels like you're harvesting something truly substantial and life-sustaining. Once you've wrestled it from the ground and peeled away its rugged skin, a world of culinary possibilities opens up. It is famously used to make a classic French remoulade, where it's grated raw and mixed with a creamy mustard dressing. But it's also fantastic roasted, when it becomes sweet and tender, or mashed with potatoes for a flavorful twist, or pureed into a velvety, elegant soup. It stores for months in a cool place, making it a reliable staple for the winter larder. Don't let its looks deceive you. Celeriac has a heart of gold. The Welsh onion is a bit of a misnomer, as it doesn't form a bulb and it actually originates from Asia. Its name likely comes from an old meaning of the word Welsh, meaning foreign. But whatever its name, this is an indispensable plant for any gardener who loves the taste of onions. It's a perennial clumping onion, a bit like a large, robust chive. Once you plant it, it will form a dense clump that you can harvest from year-round. In the depths of winter, its green shoots are often the only sign of life in the allium patch. Unlike bulbing onions that you sow and harvest once, the Welsh onion is all about continuity. You harvest it by simply cutting the green hollow leaves as you need them, or by pulling up an entire stem from the clump, much like a spring onion. The clump will continue to spread and produce new growth. This provides a constant, reliable supply of mild onion flavor for salads, stir-fries, soups, and as a garnish. In medieval times, having a perennial source of onion flavor like this would have been incredibly valuable. It is ridiculously easy to grow. You can grow it from seed, or more easily, by dividing an existing clump and replanting the small plantlets. It's not fussy about soil and will tolerate both sun and partial shade. It's hardy and vigorous, and pretty much looks after itself. Every few years, you can dig up the clump, divide it, and replant the divisions, which gives you more plants to expand your patch or to share with fellow gardeners. It's the epitome of a low-effort, high-reward crop, a true garden workhorse. We often think of turnips for their roots, a staple of the medieval diet. But just as important, if not more so, were their leaves. Turnip greens are one of the fastest growing and most nutritious leafy greens you can cultivate. In times past, special varieties of turnip were grown specifically for their abundant leaf production, rather than their roots. These greens provided a quick, reliable source of vitamins and minerals, especially in the hungry gap of late spring, when winter stores were dwindling and summer crops had yet to mature. The beauty of turnip greens lies in their speed and hardiness. You can sow a patch of turnips for greens and be harvesting in as little as 4 to 6 weeks. They are incredibly cold tolerant, with some varieties able to withstand significant frost, which often improves their flavor by reducing their peppery bitterness and bringing out a surprising sweetness. This makes them an excellent crop for early spring and late autumn sowings, extending the fresh harvest season at both ends of the year. The flavor is robust and peppery, a classic brassica taste that mellows beautifully with cooking. The traditional way to cook them in many cultures is to braise them slowly with a bit of smoked meat, garlic, and a splash of vinegar, which tenderizes them and balances their flavors perfectly. They are also fantastic simply wilted like spinach or chopped into hearty soups. Growing a patch specifically for greens is a wonderfully efficient use of garden space, providing a huge amount of nutrition in a very short space of time, just as it did for our ancestors. So there we have it, a glimpse into a forgotten world of flavor, resilience, and history right in our own backyards. By planting a few of these medieval vegetables, you're doing more than just growing food. You are becoming a custodian of genetic diversity, preserving flavors and traits that have been passed down through generations of gardeners. These crops connect us to a more sustainable way of living, one that values hardiness and flavor over cosmetic perfection. I truly encourage you to find a small corner in your garden for a skirret, a cardoon, or a patch of good King Henry. You'll be rewarded with a garden that is not only more productive, but also richer in story and character. These are the kinds of stories and secrets we love to uncover here at Nature's Blueprint. We believe that the past holds vital lessons for the future of our gardens and our planet. If you've enjoyed this journey back in time and want to discover more rare crops, ancient techniques, and sustainable gardening secrets, please do subscribe to the channel. We have so much more to explore together, digging deeper into the wisdom that lies just beneath the soil. Your support allows us to continue this important work of rediscovering and sharing our natural heritage. And finally, gardening is a community. The best ideas, just like the best seeds, are meant to be shared. If you know a fellow gardener, a history enthusiast, or anyone who might be inspired to grow a more resilient and flavorful garden, please share this guide with them. Let's work together to bring these forgotten heroes back to our plots and our plates, reviving a piece of history in our own backyards and ensuring these wonderful vegetables have a future as rich as their past. Happy gardening!